Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video we will be talking about how to apply foundation with a beauty blender or beauty sponge, whatever type of spongy device you want to use. In my last video I talked about applying foundation with a brush, and I mentioned that I have found that that tends to work better with more matte foundation. So I showed you that process with a matte foundation, but I thought it would be helpful to also show you what that process would look like with a sponge and with a more dewy foundation. So it will be a little bit of an experiment today because I have not actually used this foundation before. We're going to be trying this one out. This is the L'Oreal Infallible 24-Hour Fresh Wear Foundation. I have heard really great reviews about this foundation, so I thought I would give it a go, and it's really nice because it has a pump. I like that. If you are a beginner, one thing that I didn't know actually when I first started doing makeup is you want your beauty blender to be wet. Now you can use it dry, but really damp is the way to go. So you're gonna wanna take your blender, and this is a Real Techniques one, and run it under water, and just like a sponge, just kind of like squeeze it a few times while it's running underwater, and then once you stop the water, you wanna give it a good final squeezes just to get rid of any excess water. So it should be damp, not completely wet, and really not dry either. What this does is I have found if you are using more of a dewy foundation, it leaves a little bit more of like a luminosity to the skin. So we're gonna go ahead and give that a go today. I will show you some tips and tricks along the way, and without further ado, let's get into this. So to start things off, we are going to prime the face, and a little bit different from last time. Today we'll be using the Too Faced Hangover RX Primer. I don't know, maybe it's just placebo effect, but it's a coconut watery one, so it just makes me feel like my skin looks more fresh and dewy. So in my mind, that pairs better with a fresh and dewy foundation. The way I love this primer. I think it makes my skin look really clear, and sometimes I'll just wear it on its own, even if I'm not really wearing makeup that day, just like one of those no makeup things. I'll reach for this guy. So I'm gonna go ahead and zoom you guys in. Okay, so now we are nice and close. I'm going to go ahead and start by taking this and pumping it onto the back of my hand. I find that that gives me the most control, and then I'm able to just kind of dip in there as I go. And I actually don't even know if this is my shade, so let's cross our fingers. And I'll go ahead and take my damp sponge and just lightly tap into here. And just like with the brush, it actually is a very similar technique. What we're going to do is press this into the skin and just lightly press. Looks a little sheer to me. I do think it's a good color match, at least from here. Maybe you guys will tell me differently in the comments. So yeah, basically I'm just tapping off of my hand and pressing and bouncing onto my face. It's actually very therapeutic. You can just kind of like bounce, and then add more as you go. So squirt here, tap, tap, tap. The nice thing about the beauty sponge is it actually really does help you out because it absorbs some of that makeup back. So that's why it does give you less of like that full coverage effect sometimes, depending on the foundation that you're using. But it really does help to, if you have like too much on one area, it'll kind of smooth it out on its own. And then again, just being careful around the nose. Nose is always tricky. There are all these little crevices in there. So just really taking your time and blending that out. One thing I love about this sponge in particular is that if you see, it's not quite like a beauty blender where it's like teardrop shaped. It's kind of flattened at one side, and then I have another side over here as well. And that's really nice because it kind of breaks apart the sponge to 3 different areas. So I like this one for my foundation, and again, this is Eco Tools, highly recommend. This side, a lot of times, and I'll show you, I'll use it for foundation. And then the little butt of this guy, I'll actually even use for like highlighter. So having it segmented like that makes it really easy to use one beauty blender in a bunch of different ways. Just be careful around those hairlines and your brows. All the way up. has like a little bit of a scent to it. Not gonna lie. Not bad, just a little old. And then of course, make sure you're bringing that down to the. So the other thing that's great about a beauty blender over a brush, kind of like I mentioned, is it does tend to have a more flawless airbrushed effect on the skin, and I do think it's a little bit more foolproof. Like I said, because it's wet, because it's absorbent, it tries to help you. So if you are a beginner and you're really not sure like how to do your foundation yet and you're still trying to play things out, I do think that this would be a really good first option, just because it's kind of hard to mess up. Like you just bounce it around and like you guys can see, it's just applying everything really, really, really pretty. Kind of like I mentioned before, if you're looking for a more full coverage effect, it might be harder to get there with this guy. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's a little bit more difficult. So just bear that in mind. But if you're doing a more medium or light coverage foundation, this one will really just do a beautiful job doing it. Moving on, just like last time, I want to show you guys some concealer with this as well. So I will be going in once again with our Maybelline Fit Me and Sable. I'm running out. I actually really need to go get another one, but we're just gonna put this right underneath the eye, danger zone. Ooh. And like I mentioned before, this is the beautiful part about this sponge, is now that we have really thoroughly used this side, I can use this side and it fits really perfectly underneath my eyes. So I just press and press, and it adds a really nice dewy effect and blends everything out really, really nicely. Kind of wiggle in there if you're noticing like some creases, because this side is flat too. And I've also found with concealer that using a sponge helps to keep that under eye area looking a little bit more hydrated and less dry. Now let's powder it up. Okay, so I have my banana powder. This is the NYX HD finishing powder in the shade Banana. I'm gonna go in with my Real Techniques setting brush like always, and same thing, dab this underneath the under eye. Now remember, you are going for a dewy look now. So when you're using a powder product over something dewy, you want to be exceptionally careful to not undo what you just did. So really be light-handed here. Obviously you chose a dewy foundation for a reason. You want to keep that natural glow that came with that product. So we're going to set it so that it doesn't move around and doesn't crease up throughout the day, but at the same point you still want to keep that natural hue. So go ahead and lightly tap this on underneath here. And I'm just doing really tiny bounces just to kind of set this in place. The powder I'm going to be using today is our Wowder by Glossier. I absolutely love this powder because it's not cakey and because it's just not cakey. It's a really light powder. It sets things without really adding too much coverage. So for something like this foundation, it's really ideal. So you're just gonna lightly tap this onto a brush. You can really use any kind of fluffy brush you have and lightly tap this anywhere that we just put some makeup. So again, really, really light, like this entire side of the face. I haven't even re-tapped, and there's definitely a difference between the two faces. So very lightly handed here. Okay. So at the end, you saw I was just kind of going around, and that was literally, I hadn't even tapped into the product. I was just kind of bouncing around with what was on the brush. But as you can see, my skin still has that dewy glow to it. It's just, if you were to like touch me now, it's not gonna rub off onto you as quickly, and will hopefully last a little bit longer throughout the day. Alright guys, so that is it for this video. I know this was pretty short and sweet, but I wanted you guys to have a side-by-side comparison of the differences between using a brush or a beauty blender, because both methods do have a place in my heart. They just tend to serve different purposes, so it's always good to know both. From here, you would want to add in your blush and your bronzers and your baking. So I think I will do a video on that next. I don't know, maybe call it like triple B, like brush, bronzer, and baking. Look out for that one. I don't know where I get it. I don't know. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure, if you have not done so already, to subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, leave a comment below. Let me know if you like this kind of video, or if you don't like this kind of video, if there's something you want to see. I'm all ears. So thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are, and I will see you in my next video.